Now to Andrea Nicolas. Andrea, you've been on the Hawkesbury with police and SES crews carrying out welfare checks. What did you find?
That's right, Mark. With no phone reception in the Wiseman's Ferry area, it's been impossible for families to stay connected. And in these conditions today, there were grave fears for the safety of several people. We were on board a rescue boat with police on the Hawkesbury River when one man was found safe and well. It was one part of a huge operation to help residents trapped by floodwaters. Leaving from Wiseman's Ferry, it's all hands on deck. With police, SES volunteers and a swiftwater rescuer on board. First stop, a welfare check on the Hawkesbury River. With no phone reception, there are fears for a missing man. Fortunately, he's found safe and well on a houseboat. Nearby, another call for help. Hello! A couple trapped in their home by floodwaters, desperate to have their jerry cans refilled, knowing they could be stuck for days yet. The boat is stacked with supplies, including a generator. Delivering them safely is a mission in itself, dodging trees, debris, low-hanging power lines and poles.
Well, as you've seen, it changes quite rapidly all the time. The river changes, finding locations, even just to supply the people.
What does delivery mean for you?
Everything. So I just had no power for a couple of days.
A hay company prepares to make the same treacherous journey to help stranded livestock.
We're just trying to get it out as quick as we can.
The crews have to be agile. Sometimes a supply delivery can quickly turn into an evacuation, with this family desperate to get their children out of their home to stay with relatives on dry land. Earlier, the Laughter family made the same call, leaving their inundated home on the McDonald River.
You want to walk, Nugget?
This is the first time that it's come into our house, so it's all new for us at this stage. We're just still processing and working out what's next.
We put all of their belongings into our boat, and the Rural Fire Service boat took all the passengers on board.
Emergency crews are working round the clock from this staging point at Wiseman's Ferry. And their job is far from over. They know all too well, after the deluge comes the clean-up. Andrea Nicolas, 7 News.
Political reporter Andrea Nicolas begins our coverage.
A rock star reception 4 years in the making. Peter Malinauskas mobbed at Adelaide Oval after leading his party to a stunning victory.
I would like to take this opportunity to thank the people of South Australia.
Not just the win the polls had predicted, but an annihilation. Labor forming a majority government with no need to rely on the support of independents like Carville's Dan Cregan.
I do believe that we have the policy and the plan to realise that ambition.
By 8 o'clock, the swing was on. The crucial seat of Adelaide held by Child Protection Minister Rachel Sanderson among the first to be claimed. Lucy Hood celebrated as a Labor hero.
I'm just so overwhelmed and grateful. We've been campaigning for 2 years. It's a community that I love.
My daughter just does it all. She fits, 10 days in a week.
Young Labor women stepped up to the plate across the board. In the marginal seats of Newland, King and Elder, and with a shock swing in the formerly safe Liberal seat of Davenport, knocking out Richard Harvey, Paula Luthen, Carolyn Power and Steve Murray.
Overwhelmed, but no, it's been really good. We've run a really good campaign and obviously that's paid off, so really happy with how it's going tonight.
It seemed an impossible task, an opposition leader toppling a first-term premier during a pandemic, but Peter Malinauskas has done it, a hard-fought campaign paying off. This morning, the enormity of his party's achievement was sinking in.
Clearly the task before us is very substantial. We've got a number of issues that we'd like to address within the community, but it's a task that we are wholeheartedly committed to and we get to work today.
Promising to bring back the Adelaide 500 by the end of the year and meeting with the 5 young women who helped deliver a Labor government.
It represents everything that modern Australia looks like.
And thrilled to run into a party stalwart, former Tourism Minister Leon Bignell, who significantly increased Labor's margin in Mawson.
Thanks, mate. It doesn't happen.
I can't believe it.
Without your leadership,
I can't believe
mate.
it.
But also waking with some regrets. Caught up in the moment, he forgot to thank his wife Annabelle during his speech.
Oh, Andrea. When we got in the car together afterwards, it dawned on me that I hadn't mentioned the most important person in my life. And of course our children. I don't know how I got so lucky in life, but I just would not be here without Annabelle.
Today, the Prime Minister was quizzed about Labor's landslide, rejecting any notion it'll impact federally.
What I know is that Anthony Albanese is not Peter Malinauskas.
If there are examples of where the federal coalition want to do something good by our state, I'll acknowledge it. But I'm not going to be ScoMo's quokka either.
Though it'll be hard to wipe the smile of this election victory off his face. Andrea Nicolas, 7 News.
Andrea Nicolas begins our coverage.
Torn apart by lockdowns and hard borders, these embraces were months in the making.
Feels like forever. When you're not allowed to go home, it's the only place you want to be, you know?
It's been a really emotional journey and we're just delighted that we can come back and be together again.
The first flight from Melbourne touched down just before 8:30. Among those on board was Christopher Leach, desperate to hug his dad for the first time in 9 months.
I feel like I've actually won the lottery just seeing my dad here. Like it's more than what I could ever ask for just being here today.
Just to see him is like it's worth $1 million. It really is.
Those travelling by road were just as anxious to reunite with loved ones.
We've been sitting waiting for you people to open the border so we can see our daughter and grandkids.
Jacqueline Fisher was first to cross the border at 1 minute past midnight.
I'm going to see my mum. She's in hospital.
Sandy Nelson's daughter's due to give birth any day now.
I was so happy. I was almost hugging the poor police.
Authorities were banking on us reaching the 80% vaccination target before we opened up, but we've fallen just short.
I think we'll get to 79% vaccination for those people 16 and over today. We know that as the vaccination rate increases, the transmission potential, the risk decreases.
For now, there are a number of precautions in place. Travellers have to prove they're fully vaccinated on arrival, and there are strict testing and quarantine requirements depending on where they've come from. Andrea Nicolas, 7 News.
And Andrea, the border openings sparked controversial new rules for taxi drivers.
It has, Jane, and the industry's not happy about the lack of notice. A new law was rushed through last night, ordering all taxi and rideshare drivers to have at least one COVID jab by this Thursday. The police commissioner says it's just too risky to leave them and their customers unprotected. Without buses taking all international arrivals to Medi hotels, the drivers are now on the front line.
We are aware of the fact that they will be collecting international arrivals from the airport and taking them to their place of quarantine, and they'll also be collecting vulnerable people.
Maybe not enough notice, but that's the way of the world these days, so what can you do?
It's good, like everyone should be vaccinated.
The Taxi Council is urging the government to compensate drivers who lose income as a result of being named a close contact of an infected passenger.